Hello friends of WildRift and welcome back to another RiftGuides WildRift video. For today we are going to take a look at the best champions available for this patch, but before we hop into it, let's talk about our question of the day. How happy are you with the matchmaking? Me personally, it is terrible. Your best course of action in this instance would be playing Legendary Q. Once you leave the lower ranks of Commander and Guardian, you'll get into Vanquisher and then your game quality will improve slightly. But even then, the moment you hit Legend, you can't find games anymore. Just recently, somebody waited for like 14 hours just to get the rank 1 game. That is crazy. And obviously you shouldn't do this, so people need to play more Legendary Q because it's the objectively better Q. But for normal ranked, inflation is just terrible. The game feels so bad because nobody wants to actually win and they always want to play with ego. But now, let's move over to the champions. For our first champion, we have Vex. Vex is a champion that is a very powerful tool when you understand how to use it properly. Vex loves to play into melee champions or champions with movement abilities, so every bruiser in the game has kind of trouble against her. Because the moment they dash, she will get extra damage towards them and get her passive back faster. The amount of damage she can dish out with that is absurd. But what makes Vex so good during the laning phase? During the laning phase, Vex can start with a third ability and just zone the enemy away. While doing so, she can also influence the wave at the same time while fearing the enemy towards her, and then getting the passive stacks back faster. But there's one thing you have to do on the current patch: you have to always check for the enemy to have bone plating. Because if you just mindlessly smash your spells into them, you will lose so much damage because bone plating is unbelievably broken. Another thing for laning you need to know about is that the moment you have your passive available, so the fear bonus, that no melee champion can get close to you, because if they do, they'll get traded away. The electrocute trades, and especially in a meta where Giant Slayer is a thing, you will scale heavily into the late game and your laning phase is immaculate into most of the champions. You just have to be careful against some assassins. But the movement ones, the movement speed ones or ability ones are really having some trouble against you if you play properly around your cooldowns. It is very toxic as to how you can play the game. And when it comes to teamfights, as long as you have access to your ultimate ability, you can completely wipe anything. It is absurd how crazy this champion is, but if you miss your ultimate ability and you're into ranged champions, you will feel so unbelievably bad. The next champion on this list is Lillia. Lillia is a champion that is absolutely overtuned. This champion is broken beyond belief. Number 1, her jungle clear is insane. Number 2, her damage is nuts. Number 3, her synergy with Liandry's Torment is absolutely broken. So if you see any build without Liandry's Torment, my dear Jesus, somebody is griefing you. The moment you tag an enemy with any spell on Lillia, be it your third ability, your thirst, your second, it doesn't matter, you'll apply 6 seconds of Liandry's Torment's burn onto the enemy, because your passive refreshes the Liandry's Torment's burn, which means 3 seconds of your passive equate to 6 seconds of Liandry's Torment. And if you get into the late game, you will deal so much unbelievable damage by just hitting them with your third ability. And if you think about this, if you hit them with your third ability late game and put them to sleep afterwards, they'll be so low that they cannot play the game anymore, and if they don't do anything about it, they'll just die. But one of the biggest difficulties when it comes to playing Lillia, it's understanding that your tempo matters a lot. Losing time on the map achieving nothing is a very painful thing because this champion farms very fast and is very agile around the map and therefore can do many things. But the moment you start slacking or start losing out on golden XP, your champion feels relatively clunky to play. Because you want to be ahead because your champion is designed to be ahead. So what do I specifically mean about this one? Okay, your champion clears the jungle super fast, and in skirmishes she is super broken. Because she is too fast for the enemies to catch up unless they have movement abilities, and even then she just outruns them anyway. And with the electrocute setup, you literally 2-tap people into the next game. Her damage is beyond understanding. For our next champion on this list, we have Tristana. Tristana is one of those champions that will just grant you free elo without doing anything. You don't have to do too much for this champion. The most overused combo or most used combo in recent times in Challenger and GM for just free elo is Tristana and Lulu. So why specifically those two champions? Most dragon laners don't really know how to play lane and it's just easy to get away with everything. But not only that, Tristana is quite the decent and powerful laner, and especially if you add a Lulu to the mix, she has quite a lot of damage. If you think about the bomb damage, this champion is going to send you into the next game super fast if you're not paying close attention to it. Not only that, reaching level 5 on this champion will allow her to instantly kill you even if she is slightly behind. All she needs for this is a BF sword, and that will be enough to just kill you on the spot. It is quite the funny champion. But why is this champion so good, and why should you pick it most of the time? So her laning phase isn't really that bad, and if paired up with an enchanter support such as a Lulu, this champion becomes unbearable. But what about the other times where you don't get a Lulu or just generally? Tristana scales super heavily into the late game and just outranges everyone in the game. With the massive attack speed buff from her first ability and lethal tempo, she'll just barrage you with auto attacks and deal so much damage. Not only that, she's also, if she's smart enough, able to put the bomb onto a frontliner and shoot the frontliner with the bomb into the backline because of her ultimate ability and deal massive AoE damage. Not only that, she has a Katarina-esque feature which allows her to reset on kills with a second ability and go for more and more. This champion can get really toxic and is super easy to play in the terms of skill floor, but skill ceiling wise, it's super insane to get the most or best out of a Tristana. The next champion on this list is Rengar. Rengar with the jungle changes is an absurd monster. But why specifically that one? I can tell you about it. It's about Navori, quick blades and just generally crit items for Rengar. Rengar is a spell-centric champion, which sounds kinda weird, right? But the more spells he has, the more empowered spells he will get, and with those empowered spells he will just dominate the map. But how so? Every time you see Rengar take damage, you see a grey bar starting to appear. This grey bar is his grey health, which he can use for his second ability to heal up again. With the current changes, he can heal up 60% of the damage taken, and with the empowered one, 60% again, which accumulates to 120%. He actually heals for more than he has life, by the way. This combination of things, or this fact, allows him to go for more damage items because he'll have another HP bar to work with. Because his HP bar is not his true HP bar. Also, he's able to jump into the entire enemy team and wait for the enemy to use their CC spells. Then he can use his empowered second ability to just break free and walk away, soaking valuable cooldowns. And once he has enough crit and he's in a fight, he gets permanent resets from his Navori quick blades for his abilities, which means he can do this again and again and again. The only way to reliably kill a Rengar is to just immediately kill him without him being able to do anything. You can even cleanse knockups, by the way. It's quite the fun interaction. But for the late game, you as a Rengar want to just build more crit items and then transition into tank items. On free items you can even solo Nashor if you have free crit items. It is lovely. But for your jungle clear, ideally you go for a full clear and then you can do whatever you want. Your primary goal is just to scale towards your first item, and if the enemy makes a mistake, you immediately punish them with your ultimate ability because they can't get away from you. Just be mindful about this. For the last pick of this list, we have Aatrox. Aatrox is one of those champions that is just disgustingly broken when it comes to self-healing. His laning phase is also quite impeccable when you think about the ability to push wave and hit the enemy alike. He's also able to proc bone plating before even engaging into any kind of activity just by using his first ability from maximum range. But what makes Aatrox such a problematic champion? So Aatrox is one of those champions you would say or call a drain tank. But he's not really a tank, he's kind of a monster. He excels at having insane base damages and sustain, which allows him to just go for teamfights and beat everyone up. But when this champion isn't ahead, he feels kinda weak, but if you're good on Aatrox, you'll get ahead most of the time unless you're in a very bad matchup or the enemy is significantly better than you, for example on Riven. However, killing this champion is quite troublesome. If he has Divine Sunder and presses his ultimate ability and maybe even has Spirit Visage and has his passive available and hits a tank, he'll heal for his entire HP bar, even through anti-healing. It is so weird. But on the bright side, if you have a team composition that is able to just kite back and CC him and keep him away from the main carries, he'll have trouble actually getting to them. But in a solo queue context where there's a lot of chaos and he's able to access the backline for free, he'll just wreak havoc in there and kill them all, because his damage is quite insane when you just consider the sweet spot damage. And if he's able to successfully weave in auto attacks with the Spellblade passive on Divine Sundra, he'll just take over the game and it's so annoying to deal with. And that's it for today's video. Thank you all for watching. If you want more RiftGuides content, make sure to come back and watch more. See you soon.